Hello there, beloved. You are so perfect. And we gonna talk about perfectionism today. My biggest question has always been, we as a collective are such an agreement that, oh, we don't know what perfect is. Perfection is beyond our comprehension. None of us can be perfect. Perfection is just beyond our reach. But I beg the question, if we do not know what perfection is, how are we able to know its opposite? Just to put it out there, you feel me? In this world that we live in, which I think that we can agree for the most part, on the surface is very dualistic in nature. You need to know one thing in order to know the other, right? You know light because you know dark. You know up because you know down. You know happiness because you know sadness. You know presence because you know absence. So therefore, if we don't know perfection, how are we able to define imperfection? How do we know what flaws are? Because perfection varies from person to person. What is perfect for you may be completely misaligned with someone else. I've learned that there are times when I'm just sitting up here talking, which is what I'm doing now, and that's probably what I'm going to be doing in most of my videos, because honestly, I'm just channeling. This is how I channel. This is how I tap in, right? So I find that a lot of times when I'm just going at it, when I'm just doing my thing, when I'm just trying my best, that's when the most magic happens. That's when people are like, oh, this spoke to my soul. Oh, I felt that. Oh, how did you know what I was going through? Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Well, ask you, what do you think are your flaws? And why? Why do you think that these are parts of you that you need to change? Is it because the people you encounter don't like them? Or is it because society tells you that you shouldn't behave in this manner? And why? We just so often minimize how powerful we are by putting so many limitations on what is good, what is aligned, what we think is right, etc., etc. Every flaw, everything that I hold judgment for, first of all, everything I hold judgment for in others, I hold judgment for within self. Everything that I encounter frequently between others is more than likely something I display myself, or it provides the opportunity for me to look at self and be like, hey, why do we hold judgment for this? Like, what about us thinks that this is a flaw? And at the end of the day, I had to learn that, number one, a lot of my defense mechanisms and things I held judgment for were simply due to me fearing not being loved. And that's where we're going to get into the illusion of imperfection. So many of our defense mechanisms and toxic characteristics are rooted in us just wanting to feel loved. Why are people manipulative? 9 times out of 10 because they want to be able to control the situation or control the person, because they feel that with that control they don't have to experience pain, not realizing that they're just generating negative karma and they're still going to experience that pain, right? Why do people berate other people? Because they berate themselves internally every day. Why do people please? Because we fear abandonment. We fear that if we don't sacrifice self for the sake of others, then we won't be loved. And this fear is rooted in the illusion of scarcity. And that's why I said this channel, we bring big abundance, because there's such an abundance of love. And once we find that love within self, we're able to not only not operate in a misaligned manner, but we're able to spread it to others as well. Furthermore, on the point, I would like to discuss how often we try to find the flaws in others, which kind of brings about cancel culture, right? We try to find the flaws in others to be like, oh, well, they're not perfect, because we want to so badly reinforce the idea that perfection is unattainable. But how and why do we have this idea of perfection if perfection does not exist? Where did the concept come from? You cannot attain something that you already are. So of course you cannot strive to be perfect if you already are. That does not mean there isn't room for improvement, but it is perfection in that you are able to see where you can improve. You are able to see where you can be more compassionate and you can be more understanding. That's not saying that horrific and terrible things don't occur. That is not minimizing the pain that is experienced in that. That is not minimizing the fact that we should absolutely hold space for that, and we should absolutely acknowledge and care for those around us and ourselves when we go through those times. But in a dualistic world that, again, we'll get into that in a different video, but in a dualistic world, those times are necessary and perfect to some capacity in order for us to relish in the bliss that we feel when we feel it, to find the highs, to find the silver linings, and really, really feel what love is. Really, really sink into what it means to unconditionally love. Because it is my belief, and you don't have to share the belief, but I believe in unconditional love. I understand that a lot of times we don't know how that's expressed. Sometimes we don't always know how to love unconditionally because we don't love ourselves unconditionally. Because again, we have the fear of being imperfect, and we think that the things that we hold judgment for don't deserve love. But the only way you're gonna overcome those things is if you bring love into those spaces. If you're able to sit with yourself and be like, man, I didn't really like how I behaved in that situation. I didn't like how it made me feel. I didn't like how it made the other person feel. The only way to heal through that is to bring love to it and be like, hey, I was still trying my best with the resources that I had, the knowledge that I had, the tools that I had. And understanding that I still deserve love in spite of it motivates me to behave differently in the future. Because being a beacon of love, you don't want to behave in ways that are misaligned with love. Because you're not then challenging yourself to be a higher expression of love. I'm not saying to try to be perfect. I'm saying that you already are and you can become more perfect. And I think that realizing that every action that you take is perfect in a greater scheme of finding a deeper level of unconditional love and expressing a deeper level of unconditional love is what ultimately allows you to fully self-express. It takes so much courage, so much sitting with yourself, so much reflection to be able to fully self-express. Personally, it has taken me a long time to get to this point where I'm even comfortable enough saying how I feel. But I know that if I say something that later on I disagree with, I can still bring love to the person that I am right now, in the space that I'm in right now, where this is my truth. And this is my viewpoint, and this is my lens, and I'm excited to expand my viewpoint and expand my lens. Because I know that not only is realizing that every action is perfect such a humbling experience, but it just is so motivating for me to just keep going. So I ask you again, if you are in the agreement and you are of the assumption that perfection doesn't exist, that means imperfection by nature cannot exist. Simply, that's like If a thing doesn't exist, its opposite cannot exist, because from what does it derive? And if you think perfection does exist, it does. And it varies from person to person. It varies from viewpoint to viewpoint. It varies based on your experience, but that doesn't make it any less perfect. That doesn't make it any less beautiful. And that doesn't make it any less deserving of love. Whether or not you understand it is not the point. And as you learn to bring more unconditional love to self, you learn to bring more unconditional love to others, and then that understanding will come to understanding and understanding will come to you naturally. So I will close this out by reminding you once again that you are so perfect. You are so perfect. And you are so deserving of love. And all those things that you think are flaws are just areas of your shadows that need to be shown light and love. All those flaws that you find in other people may just be reflections of self, but regardless are still areas that deserve to be shown love and light. And then you will be able to see the glory, the majesty of unconditional love. You will really be able to see perfection. And you will really be able to know that it is you